Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're jumping right into something truly mind-bending. We're going to explore the first 3 chapters of a deeply profound text, Crysticism, Code 940.1, unpacking a seriously powerful story about spiritual growth, emotional healing, and the hidden mechanics of a mystical universe. Now, our protagonist here is Rev. He's just a normal 25-year-old guy in everyday clothes, looking completely grounded and ordinary. But internally, well, he is about to go on this incredible, life-altering journey that completely bridges the gap between everyday life and deep cosmic truths. So let's just dive right into this and see exactly how his story unfolds.
We start this journey by anchoring right into the raw, totally isolating emotion of sudden grief. You know the feeling, right? The world keeps moving even when a heart stops. It just perfectly captures that sudden, piercing disconnect you feel when a loved one passes away. Cars are still driving by outside, neighbors are bickering about politics, people are still uploading goofy prank videos online. The planet literally doesn't pause for anyone. But inside Rev's living room, time has completely stopped. It's such a brilliant way to illustrate how grief just cuts right through our everyday numbness. It isolates us, pulls us completely out of the normal flow of time, and forces us to face the reality of loss, especially when we least expect it.
Section 1. When Grief Strikes. Chapter 1. Now there is a profound irony to Rev's situation here. His father has just died, the funeral is over, and honestly, all throughout his youth, Rev totally rebelled against his father's mystical teachings. He thought his dad was just this controlling religious freak, and honestly assumed he'd feel nothing but relief when his father was finally out of his life. But instead, grief absolutely strips away his tough exterior. He feels this gaping hole filled with painful fire. His chest is literally burning, and tears are just pouring out of his eyes without asking his permission. He's forced to sit there and question why he's sobbing for a man he thought he despised. It's this massive moment of complete emotional breakdown where all of his assumed truths are just suddenly shattered.
Section 2. Crystic Conscience, the inner voice.
So, in the deafening, static quiet of his living room, this lucid, internal presence suddenly makes itself known. It says, "Hello, I am your Crystic Conscience. Would you like me to help you with your grief and sorrow?" And get this, the voice doesn't come from the TV or his phone. It rises up right inside his chest, clear as a bell. It's not some hallucination or a glitchy horror movie moment. It's actually this incredibly serene, grounding presence, kind of like a lucid dream he's been avoiding his whole life. And Rev, who is just desperate and drowning in his own sorrow, actually answers it. He pleads for help, but only if it allows him to restore his true self. So here's the crucial thing about how this conscience operates. It doesn't just offer empty platitudes. It asks a really simple, piercing question. Do you think your father loved you? It immediately goes to work challenging Rev's lifelong, comfortable assumption that his father just wanted to restrict his freedom. Rev tries to argue, of course. He claims his dad opposed his freedom and therefore couldn't possibly love him. But the conscience just calmly presses on. It asks if his father cared about him. And this forces Rev to confront the uncomfortable reality that his father constantly tried to protect him from unseen negative forces, even when Rev totally dismissed those warnings as controlling illusions.
Section 3. Mental Prison Wall. Self-made defense.
This brings us to such a fascinating concept, the mental prison wall. Basically, it's a self-made defense mechanism built entirely out of sarcasm, eye rolls, and false programming to keep out uncomfortable realities. Now keep in mind, this mental jail isn't some dark, scary dungeon. It's much more like a rigid emotional fortress. Rav spent years building this wall to reject his father's teachings. He used sarcasm as the mortar, locking out literally anything that challenged his right to just do whatever he wanted. But the conscience reveals a tough truth. While this wall successfully kept his father out, it also became his own emotional jail, completely locking in his negative feelings and trauma. So, dismantling this wall? Yeah, it is not an easy process. It takes 3 distinct steps. First, you have to acknowledge the emotional jail. Second, you must accept the pain of returning memories. And third, you actually remove the first brick. Rev actually tries to bargain here, which is so relatable. He asks if he can just smoke some weed to skip the painful part and go straight to feeling good. But the conscience drops a massive truth bomb. Quick fixes like that, they just paint pretty 3-dimensional images on the prison bars. Sure, they might temporarily change your mood, but you are still entirely self-imprisoned. True healing absolutely requires accepting the pain of tearing the wall down, brick by painful brick.
Section 4. First brick falls. A sudden flood.
You're going to love what actually acts as the catalyst for removing that first piece of the wall. It is incredibly surprising. The conscience reveals that Rev's dad left him a final letter, and it just says, "Goodbye. see you on the other side. That's literally it. The irony here is wild. Rev fully expected this massive, manipulative lecture from beyond the grave. He thought his dad would try to control him one last time, but instead he gets this simple, trusting farewell. His father had completely let go, trusting that his son would find his own way. And that realization just hits Rev like a ton of bricks, completely disarming his heavy defenses.
And with that powerful realization, the conscience reaches out with precise burning intention and boom, the first brick falls. It triggers this visually radiant, overwhelming flood. Imagine a storm of ghost-like memories swirling all around him. All those rejected thoughts and feelings he used to label as weakness just rush right back in. But the most important part, the wounded pieces of his soul, the fragments he cast away when he made foolish choices, they finally return home. It turns out his father had actually been holding on to those cast-off pieces of Rev's soul in his own heart for safekeeping, just waiting for the day Rev was ready to accept them back.
Section 5. Memory of Warnings. Universal Consequences.
So now we get to see a direct comparison between two wildly different worldviews. On one side, you've got Teen Rev's truth, this idea that freedom means absolutely no restrictions and that you should only ever learn from your own personal experience. It's a highly subjective, consequence-free reality. But on the other side, you have his dad's reality, and that is grounded in unintended universal consequences, physical damage, and soul-mind logic. His dad was always warning him that ignoring universal laws carries undeniable long-term damage regardless of what your own personal subjective truth might be.
To put this into perspective, let's look at the heartbreaking real-life examples his father used during their old arguments. Think about it. When his dad was a teen, he ignored his own parents' warnings about loud music, claiming his own truth. The consequence? In his adult years, he suffered severe hearing loss. Then there's Rev's mom. Up to age 30, she smoked cigarettes, totally believing her own fantasy truth that it brought her health and relaxation. And even though she quit, the physical damage caught up with her, and she tragically passed away from cancer in her early 50s. His father used these vivid, painful examples to show that universal laws of cause and effect honestly don't care about your subjective truth. The physical consequences are very, very real.
Reliving this memory brings Rev to this massive, game-changing epiphany. He literally says, "Wow, I did not realize Dad was so brilliant. I was saying the same thing as him, but I still thought he was an idiot." Rev suddenly remembers that as a teenager, he actually argued that his friends shouldn't smoke because it causes cancer, all while hypocritically demanding his dad let him do whatever he wanted. It is such a beautiful, transformative moment. Rev finally drops his defenses entirely. He forgives his father, realizing they were actually fighting for the exact same truth all along. His dad was never a dictator. He was just a loving guy trying to save his kid from unnecessary pain.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with a provocative question to ponder. What hidden bricks are holding up your own mental prison wall? And are you brave enough to remove the first one today? Just like Rev, we all build these emotional fortresses. We use sarcasm, false beliefs, and avoidance to keep out uncomfortable realities. But listen, true freedom doesn't come from ignoring the consequences. It comes from having the courage to face your past, forgive the people who genuinely tried to help you, and welcome back the wounded pieces of your own soul. Take some time to think about your own walls today. Thank you so much for joining me on this incredible journey. Until next time, stay curious and keep learning.